Hello and welcome to the premiere episode of the Going the Distance podcast. I'm Nicholas Delgado and I will be your host for everything running in Central Illinois and beyond. Each week I will be covering local high school teams, local and statewide meets, discussing rankings, highlighting key runners, and be joined by special guests. Since this is our first episode, I'd like to take a minute and introduce myself more in depth. I'm a junior at Morton High School in Morton, Illinois, and I run for both the cross-country and track teams. I began running my 8th grade year, but it wasn't until I joined the high school team that I became invested in the sport not only for myself and my times, but also for tracking impressive teams and runners. This podcast developed from that, and now I hope to be your go-to source for all the local runners while sprinkling in the important statewide events. Not only can you hear me on Going the Distance podcast, but you can also join me on Instagram at Going the Distance IL. On today's episode, we'll jump right into discussing the local and state rankings, as well as a few of the first season kickoff meets. I'll be introducing the senior captain for the Morton Potters, Chase Sauder, regarding the Milesplit and ILXCTF rankings for the upcoming season. But first, let's jump into last week's meet rundown. So, first thing I want to talk about is the previous week's meets. So, locally is kind of the main focus of this podcast, but when there's some big meets up north in Chicago or down south near St. Louis, I do like to cover them just because all the runners are going to end up at state here at Detweiler Park in Peoria. So it's important to know what's going on, not just in the local area. But first we'll start off with the Normal West invite, obviously normal. Plainfield South won as a team with 27 points. It wasn't very close. They came down. They're a strong 3A school. They're going to be very strong this year. But Cameron Viger, who is a junior of Plainfield South, won the race in 15:15.3, just in front of Zachary Balzer, who's a senior from Minooka in 15:16. Kind of a close race, not a terrible day to race out either, so it was a good showing from that team. A couple 2A teams as well into the mix, but overall Plainfield South kind of just swept it away with Minooka right behind them. And next up, we have the Lighted Up Invitational in Clinton. Normal U-High wins this with 42 points. It was also kind of a blowout. And Brant Henderson, who's a junior of Normal U-High, wins the race in 15:43. Pretty successful day for U-High, bringing home their first invite win. Now, keep in mind, some of these invites are just quick meets, not a ton of teams come, because it's only week one. So by next week, we should have a better feel for where everybody's at. And the preseason rankings, which me and Chase will go over later. I will introduce him as we come on in a later segment. We're going to rank these preseason ratings from Milesplit, but obviously it's hard to make preseason rankings. So we will see after the first few weeks how accurate they are and adjust, and Milesplit will adjust them, obviously, as well. So next, I wanted to cover in Limestone at Alpha Park, the Rocket Run for the Stars. This course is definitely not an easy course, and Decatur St. Teresa came up, and they won with 31 points over Lincoln's 40, so somewhat of a close meet over there. The senior Brendan Hetzig from Lincoln wins the meet in 15:41. Wasn't very close. Notable mention, Peoria Notre Dame was at that meet, and they did not perform as well as I thought they would, but it was a hard course, so times obviously aren't going to be as fast as Detweiler or Darks, but overall, solid meet. Congratulations for Decatur St. Teresa. I have not heard much of them, I will admit, so it'll be interesting to see how they progress throughout the year and see what they can do at the state meet. I'm pretty sure they're 1A. Next, on Friday, not on Saturday, the rest of the meets were on Saturday, but this Friday was the IVC invite, and Elmwood came away with the win with only 22 points, a crazy day for them. Isaiah Hill, who's a junior, he won the meet in 15:54.2, and pretty successful day for them, I would say. Not much to discuss there, they had 22 points, what else can you say? So now we can move into some non-local meets, because that was about it in the area for this past weekend. So first, let's talk about the Civic Memorial Twilight Invite. Highland, a team in the rankings. I think they are top 10, or right outside top 10 maybe, according to Milesplit. They won with 29 points, and it was a fairly big invite, so that's, in my opinion, pretty impressive. Jackson Coleman of Civic Memorial, however, he's a senior. He won in 15:53. He won that, and Justice Elridge, his teammate, who's a junior, he was second place in 15:55. So Civic Memorial has two very strong front runners. So if they can find 3, 4, and 5 that can progress throughout the year and have a solid showing, they're going to be a team to be reckoned with in the 2A state finals this year. Next, I wanted to cover Kane County Invite. This is a big meet up north. It is a mix of a lot of schools, but 3A, 2A. Batavia, the 3A school, wins with 50 points, and Quentin Lowe, who's a senior of Batavia, wins the meet in 15:35. Now, I don't know much about this course, but 15:35 is still a crazy good showing. So it'll be interesting to see all those 3A teams and the 2A teams that had to go up and compete there, how they're going to adjust their racing and how they're going to improve throughout the year. Next, I chose the McHenry Invite. Crystal Lake Prairie Ridge, who was ranked 5 in 2A according to Milesplit. They won with just 52 points over Huntley, who was the 3A school. And they just barely beat them. It was 52-55. And Crystal Lake Central. So neither of those two schools. But Carson Hollander, he's a senior from there. He won the meet in 16:30. And finally, it was not a full 3-mile race, but the Elmwood Park Trial 2-mile. This was an interesting meet to look at. There are a couple important 2A teams here that I wanted to discuss. Glenbard South, who's ranked 6th according to Milesplit, and Riverside Brookfield, who's ranked 2nd according to Milesplit. They had a very close race, and crazy enough, the 6th ranked team, Glenbard South, actually won over Brookfield, who's ranked 2nd, 30-34. Cooper Mars of Brookfield, though, did take the win. He's a junior. He won in 9:49 for 2 miles, which is a very impressive 2-mile early season meet. So congrats to him. Now we're going to move on to some individual performances from the past week. One of the things I'd like to keep repeating on this podcast is some weekly top times for the whole state and season top times from the whole state. So these will be good to know. Each week, obviously, there'll be a whole new refresh, so you won't have to hear the same things every week. But the season top times will kind of change a little bit. But as the season progresses, it'll be a bigger deal as somebody takes one of those down and we have a new individual leader for the season. So for the week, we have Isaac Teal, who's a junior from Pinckneyville for 1A. He ran a 15:10 on Saturday at the Mascoutah Kickoff for the win there. Impressive showing from him. Not quite as good as his Detweiler Dark time, but Detweiler is also a super nice course. So from 2A, we had the junior Dale Johnson from Sterling, who ran a 15:21 and on Tuesday at the Moline Invite. Good showing from him. I think he PR'd at like 15:04 last year, so he's getting very close. And of course, that is not Detweiler. So it'll be interesting to see how he shows up at Galesburg this week and how he shows up at Sycamore, I believe it is, for his invite. And then first to the finish will follow on September 10th, which will be a big teller for a lot of teams this season. In 3A, Marcellus Mines, who is also a junior from Joliet West, he ran a 14:43 this week on Tuesday at the Yorkville Invite, which is just an insanely impressive early season time. And we'll see where he can go with this. That's the top time in the state right now. And we'll see how long it stands, I guess. For the whole season, for 1A, Isaac Teal of Pinckneyville from Detweiler Dark with a 14:45.3 holds the title. For 2A, the junior Dylan Nally from Marion holds that title at 14:48, also set at Detweiler Dark. But 3A was not set at Detweiler Dark. It is still Marcellus Mines who ran that time at the Yorkville Invite. So it'll be interesting to see how those times come and go throughout the season. And finally, before I introduce Chase onto the podcast, I want to talk about a segment I'm doing called Runner of the Week. This is where I pick one runner who I think showed exceptional performance this week, not just necessarily in the fastest time, but ran the best race and won maybe, or just there's a lot of criteria that goes into it. So I picked a local one and a whole statewide one. For my local runner of the week, I chose Isaiah Hill, who is a junior from Elmwood. He won the IVC Invite in 15:54, which was a 39-second win. And from what I remember from my teammates talking about the Shazam course, it's pretty tough. So he led his team to win in a very convincing manner. So I decided that he should be this week's runner of the week. And for the state, I chose Isaac Teal of Pinckneyville. He deserves it. I mean, he's put up insane times already just as a junior. He won at 15:10, which was a 19-second win. He led his team to a 3-way tie for first in that meet, but they lost all the tiebreakers and got third, which is kind of sad, but great performance by him. He did definitely everything he needed to do for his team. So now let's get into our segment with Chase, and we will talk about the Milesplit rankings. I'm here introducing Chase Sauder, who is a high school senior from Morton, Illinois. He started running cross country his sophomore year, and he has a PR of 16:08 in the 3 mile and 10:03 in the 3200. He was injured last year, but he came back during track season and ran under 10:10 twice in the 3200. And we're hoping to see him strong this fall in cross country. So welcome, Chase. How's your day going?
It's going great. Thanks for having me.
Yes, so we're going to be talking about the Milesplit rankings and the ILXCTF rankings, just going through a few of them and giving our opinions on it. So I guess we can start with Milesplit. So we'll talk mostly about the top 5, but if we want to branch out, top 10, and then just kind of say who we thought should be included or not included, and so on and so forth. So, all right, Chase, what are your opinions on top 10, top 5?
I think it. Oh, okay. I'll just put this out there first. I think it was really hard to do preseason rankings this year. I mean, I think it is always because anything can happen over the course of a season, and you're just kind of trying to put together like track and cross country from the previous year into your rankings. So I think it's pretty wide open. I know Illinois XCTF, they mentioned that it's pretty wide open. I think it's going to be pretty competitive this year, so things can shake out really. However, um, I think Milesplit is definitely missing Fenwick in the top 10. I know they lost Christian Klein. He's down in Florida, and then they lost a couple other seniors from their squad last year that won state. But they're still going to have a really strong front pack that's running 1, 2, 3. And then if they can just pull in a 4 and 5, they're definitely going to go top 10 at the state meet. And if they really work on their 4 and 5, they can definitely go a lot higher than just top 10. So.
Yeah, I think Fenwick is a big piece that Milesplit missed in the top 10. I see that they lost a lot of people, but those 3 All-Staters at the top are going to be very impactful for just the rest of the team. They don't even necessarily need an elite 4 and 5. They're already going to have so little points up at the front. But let's also talk about Deerfield. They graduated their entire top 7 from last year, and they're coming in with a completely fresh new team, but they're all going to be decently fast. Deerfield's a pretty big school, as you mentioned to me earlier this year. What are your thoughts about them and not being in the top 10 or just top 15, I think, even?
I'm not sure. I haven't looked a lot at Deerfield. I just know with their program that they have there, they know what they did last year. Um, I think I read on Illinois XCTF that their coach was talking about some great speeches that their kids have. I think that they're still going to pull together a good team by the end of the year. I don't know if they'll be top 10 or not. Um, they have a big enough team to definitely make that possible. And yeah, I would have to look at the track rankings.
Yeah, that's fair. I think they usually have, like last year they had the smallest team spread in the state meet. It was like only like 48 seconds. They had a crazy pack, and I think it's looking as if they're going to do it again this year. It's just how fast will they be? But
Yeah.
all right, so let's talk more about top 3. How do you feel as those are ranked? So for Milesplit, we have Grayslake Central is 1, Riverside Brookfield is 2, Morton is 3, and I think we should throw in Kalen honestly as 4 because they got 4th last year and they're going to be going for that trophy again this year. How do you feel about Milesplit's top 4 in that order?
Um, I think Canelan's kind of a wild card. They've been ever since 2019, kind of like with us here at Morton. 2019, they've been like right in that cusp, top 5 each year. I think they'll be a scary team come the end of the season. They're led by that sophomore Evan Nosek, that's standout, absolute talent. They're gonna be really good. I'm not sure how their 4 and 5 are gonna look. They graduated a lot of people. They're gonna have a young team. Um, so if they can pull together a 4 and 5, come November, they're gonna be a scary team.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think we're gonna really see them come into play as later as the season keeps going because they have a young team, like you said, and it's gonna be pretty interesting how they unfold because nobody has a lot of experience besides obviously Evan, but he's an exceptionally talented runner. But in track season he actually got injured. He did not run as well as everybody would have expected him to, I guess. So it'll be interesting to see how he comes back. Now Morton, we got 3rd place last year, and then Brookfield, who was 5th last year.
Yep.
Those two expected trophiers. How do you feel about them?
Man, I just think it's so wide open. I personally looked at this and I thought Morton was overranked, knowing what they know. Uh, I really do think that we were overranked on Milesplit. Um, Part of it just because it's so wide open. Part of it, we haven't proved ourselves. Um, Obviously, I'm coming back from an injury last season. Um, we still have guys. We still only have two guys that have gone under 16 so far. So we have a Morton has a lot of work to do to kind of prove themselves over the course of this season. They want a trophy.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. Thinking about it, I've always thought about it from our point of view, right? But if you're looking in on it, you're right. We only do have two guys who have run under 16. Although I think we're going to have a really good four-man pack up at the front, and hopefully we can pack as many people up at the top as we can, and then I can come through as that fifth runner. But then Riverside Brookfield with Cooper Mars, who's also he's a junior this year now, but he's very fast as well. He did great last year running with Paul Protow. I think that's how you say it,
Yep.
but he's not going to have him anymore as pushing him on his team. So how do you think they're fairly ranked?
I think so. They were fifth place last year. They're gonna be hungry for, after being fifth place at Detweiler last year, they're gonna be hungry to go for a trophy this year, go for first or second place trophy. They had two guys, not Cooper Mars, so Jack O'Brien and Brady Norman go under 10:15 in the 3200 this year. So they showed a strong improvement over the track season. I am just kind of reading and summarizing from Milesplit right now. I did not look that up. So,
Okay, that's fair. And then finally, Grizzly Central up at the top of both Illinois XCTF and Milesplit. I feel like they're fairly ranked. How about you?
absolutely. Yeah, their showing at Delaware Dark was incredible. They were really deep. Something on Illinois XCTF was talking about them being about ten guys deep, a lot of guys under 5 minutes in that time trial that they did. They're gonna have not only competition from other teams, um, but they're gonna have competition within their pack, and so that's really gonna help them push them throughout the season.
Yeah, I think they had 8 guys go sub 5 in their time trial, which is exceptionally impressive. We had 5, but it's going to be a really hard team to take down this year. I think they have really great talent, especially with Trey Sato up there. He ran 15 flat at Detweiler Dark, which is a 12-second PR for him going into a preseason meet. That's pretty impressive, and I think they're fairly ranked at the top in my opinion. So if we move over to Illinois XCTF, they're also ranked at the top, and Fenwick's there, which I think we discussed that they should probably be higher ranked. So I
Hmm.
agree with that so far. But Morton, so we're not up there like we are in Milesplit. We're not even in the top 10. We're ranked 12th. What do you think 12th is? You said you didn't think Morton was third was a little too high. Do you think 12th is too low?
Um, I do believe that 12th is probably a little bit low. Like I said, they don't have all the insight that we have as we run on the team daily. But even so, with Leighton running under two flat for the 800 this past track season, and Jonas Witherich and Josh Weeks, they're gonna form a strong trio up front, and so I think just that trio alone is gonna pull us into the top 10. Kind of like Fenwick we were talking earlier, they're gonna have a strong top three. I think Morton between those three is also gonna have a great team.
Yeah, overall, I think this year the junior class is super strong. If you look at the rankings just coming in this year individually, a lot of the juniors are leading their team's pack. So I think it'll be interesting. Everybody's pretty evenly spread out. It should be a good run for the state title this year. Um, Other than that, postseason wise, with state outlook, what are you feeling trophy wise? If you could pick 3 teams, who do you think you would have as your top 3?
Um, I think right now, undeniably, I um got to go with Grays Lake Central, taking home the first place trophy. They're just so deep. They're gonna have that competition within their pack. After that, it's really hard. I think for me personally, I agree with Milesplit. Riverside Brookfield number two. They're gonna have a strong pack up front. They're gonna have some of that experience in the back that hopefully they can pull together a four and five. And then for third place trophy, I don't really think us or Caneland is kind of in that right now. Um, I was thinking Chris Blake, Prairie Ridge, who we didn't really talk about. They're ranked fifth on Milesplit, but they had 4 guys under 450 in the last track season. So
I think that's a fair evaluation there. I think us in K-Land, we definitely have a lot of work to put in to show that we should be ranked that high. And I know some teams ran their first meets last week, but a couple teams like us, we have our first meet this week. So it'll be interesting to see how those results compare. And first to the finish coming up on September 10th will be a big teller because we'll be racing against a lot of Chicago schools, and everybody will be down there in Peoria, down at the state course at Detweiler. So it should be a good showing early season meet on the state course just to see where everybody's placed. Should give us and everybody else a little more intel on the teams this year. So thank you for coming on, Chase. I really appreciate it. It was fun ranking Milesplit and Illinois XCTF with you. Thanks for your conversation.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
So I am back, just me again, and I'm here to discuss the weekly outlook for some upcoming meets and individuals you should be watching for this week. So locally, there are 2 meets that I think we should be keeping an eye on, which is the Galesburg Invite and the Canton Invite. Number 3 ranked Morton, according to Milesplit, will be racing at Galesburg, along with Peoria Notre Dame, Dunlap, Normal Community West, and Geneseo. So we'll see how Morton can perform with their new 5th runner, which is me, and 4th runner Chase Sauder, who is coming back from an injury. We'll see how Morton puts on a show this weekend and what the other teams can do to try to chip them down. The Canton Invite, nobody highly ranked, but a lot of local teams will be racing, so I felt like it was important to mention it. Pekin, obviously Canton, Limestone, Mackinac Deer Creek, and Peoria Manual, and Peoria High will be all racing there. So lots of local teams will be in Canton this weekend, however, some will also be in Galesburg. Now, there are a lot of big non-local meets I wanted to talk about really quickly. The Hornet Red Devil Invite up north will have a lot of strong teams. The Fenwick boys team will be veering off against Deerfield, along with the 3A team Hinsdale South and Hinsdale South and Hinsdale Central. Minooka and Oswego East will all be there. It'll be a crazy meet. Obviously, not expecting Fenwick to win, but it'll be cool to see how they do with competition this early in the season. It will be their first meet, I'm fairly sure, and we'll see how Deerfield's new whole top 7 does. Next, I wanted to talk about the Harlem Invite, where Maple Park Caneland, ranked number 4, will be not starting their season, but that's where their next big invite will be. They'll be racing against Burlington Central, who will also be decent, but Caneland should have an interesting meet. It'll be interesting to see how they do with a race under their belts. And that's about it for the Harlem Invite. Granite City Invite down south, we have Civic Memorial, Edwardsville, Mascoutah, Quincy, and St. Louis University High School from Missouri coming over. That'll be an interesting meet. I'll be interested to see how Civic Memorial can do with a bigger group of teams, especially 3A teams like Edwardsville. After losing Ryan Watts, obviously the state champion for 3A in the mile and 2 mile, he was a crazy talent. It'll be interesting to see who they put there and how they will be looking to do this year with their somewhat new team. Mascoutah, I don't know how they're going to be this year. It'll be interesting to see what they'll do as well. And then Quincy, after losing Fiker Rosen, he is gone. It feels weird to say that, but they'll have a basically completely new team as well. So they might not be very good, but I thought it was worth mentioning. The Fenton John Kurtz Early Bird Invitational is what I have next. There are going to be a lot of teams here. Number 1 ranked Grayslake Central for 2A will be racing there, along with number 7 Wheaton St. Francis. This will be a great chance for Grayslake Central to prove they are in the number 1 spot, and a great chance for Wheaton St. Francis to prove that they are there as well. And they have room to move up. Grayslake Central does not. There's also going to be some strong 3A teams such as Arlington Heights Hersey and Downers Grove North, who are both going to be pretty solid. Obviously, Hersey is where Josh Methner came from, so nobody will probably be able to reach what he did, but I'm sure they'll have a strong team just like always. Downers Grove North will also have a strong team, so it'll be cool to see how Grayslake Central can do against some of the 3A teams in better competition. The Crystal Lake South Invite is another invite I wanted to cover. Not many top teams ranked there. or top ranked teams there, but Belvedere North, who wasn't in the top 10, and number 9 Woodstock will both be there. So it'll be interesting to see if Belvedere North can prove that they should be in the top 10 according to Milesplit. They were number 5 in Illinois XCTF, but not for Milesplit. So maybe they can prove themselves this next week. Woodstock, barely in that top 10, trying to prove that they deserve to be there, and we'll see how they do against Belvedere North. Next up, the Charleston Invite. Muhammad Seymour, who was pretty strong last year, and Urbana will be there. Urbana might be okay, but I'm more curious on how Muhammad Seymour is going to do. They did lose a few guys, however, they do have a couple solid freshmen coming up. So it'll be interesting to see how they can do with that 3-mile race, which is definitely a completely different battle than a 2-mile race. Next, the Fall Harvest Classic. Number 6 Glenbard South and number 7 Wheaton St. Francis will both be there. Glenbard South already has beaten number 2 Riverside Brookfield, so it'll be interesting to see how Wheaton St. Francis can do in their second meet of the year. Wheaton St. Francis will be racing twice this week at some decently big invites, so we'll see how they do with that intensity in their schedule. And then one more I thought was notable to mention is on Tuesday, on August 30th. It's the Sycamore Invitational. Belvedere North will be there, so they're also racing twice. Caneland, same thing. They're ranked 4 in the state, so that intensity in their schedule will be interesting to see how they deal with it. Sycamore ranked 10. Obviously, they're going to be at their own invite, but they're going to be trying to prove that they should not leave that top 10 slot. And then Glenbard South. They're going to be having 2 meets as well. DeKalb is a 3A school that is also going to be there. I feel like that's notable to mention, with Riley Newport going to be making his showing most likely this week. We'll see how he does coming off of a 3rd place finish at the state meet last fall. So, individuals to watch. I just want to run through a couple people really quickly. From 1A, I chose 3 seniors, 3 juniors, 3 sophomores just to look at. From Elgin Harvest Christian, Daniel Winkleman, he got 4th in 1A state last year. Tommy Murray, also a senior from Port Byron Riverdale, 9th in state last year. And Akili Parek from Chicago Latin, he got 10th in 1A state last year. So those will be the 3 seniors I think you should be watching out for this coming week. For 1A, the juniors, I chose Isaac Teal, Gavin Geneseo, and Ethan Hogan from Pinckneyville, Benton, and Columbia, respectively. Isaac Teal got 5th in state last year, but as you can tell, he's already racing extremely well this year. So it'll be interesting to see how he does throughout the rest of the year. Gavin has not yet raced this year. However, I know he's been putting in a good summers with the work, and he had a fairly solid track season. So, with his 6th place performance last year at 1A State, he's definitely looking to crack into that top 5. And he was running a 4:07 in track. I definitely think he has the speed to be able to do that. Ethan Hogan is a new junior that nobody, or I had not heard of before. He did not have a state appearance last year, but he PR'd the Mascoutah Kickoff this week at a 15:29, which was like a minute PR. So it'll be interesting to see how he progresses this season. And then the 3 sophomores, Ben Gibson, Evan Cook, and Nicole Martino. They all ran at state last year, 20th, 111th, and 70th, respectively. It will be interesting to see how those guys come up. In 2A, I wanted to run down with Graydon Rill, Brendan Hetzig, Jackson Coleman, all seniors. They all did well at state last year. It'll be interesting to see how they do when they come back. And then the strong junior class of Dylan Nally, Trey Sato, and Josh Weeks from Morton is somebody I thought is going to be a big game changer this year. He was injured last year and still got 39th in state while running a 15:40. But at Detweiler Dark, he already ran a 15:46. So I think it'll be interesting to see how he progresses this year with his strong team pushing him right behind him. And then finally, I have 2 sophomores, Evan Nosek and Brady Norman. They're going to be putting on a show this year, probably, and it'll be interesting to see how they grow through the rest of their high school career. Finally, with 3A, Riley Newport from DeKalb. He'll have his first showing this week. Parker Nold, Oswego East. Zachary Balzer, Manuka. It's just going to be a super strong pack from this 3A guys this year. Same thing with the juniors. Marcellus Mines, obviously, already putting up 14:43. Cameron Viger and Zach Close putting up low 15 times. Very impressive for an early season meet. And then 2 sophomores, Dylan Maloney and Grant Schroeder. No state appearance last year for Grant, but he ran a 15:13 PR this past week, so it'll be interesting to see how he does. So overall, I think the junior class is going to be super strong this year. And I wanted to thank Chase for coming on and recording this with me. It was fun to have him on here to rank Milesplit, and we'll have to see how the rankings progress throughout the weeks and see how all the teams that are probably going to have their first race in by this week or next week, we'll see how everybody does. So next week's episode, we'll cover basically the same stuff. And make sure to follow on Instagram and subscribe on YouTube. And you can send me an email suggestions that you want. That is thedistanceprojectil@gmail.com. And you can find me on Instagram at goingthedistanceil. Thank you for listening, I should say. And I'll see you guys next week.